reporting on the games you love by people who love to game. The MMO Reporter Network. You're listening to Defiance Reporter on the MMO Reporter Network, brought to you by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook download at audibletrial.com/MMO Reporter. And by Doghouse Systems. Choose your weapon with Doghouse Systems.
Greetings, Ark Hunters. This is Weston Marks out in the frontier, the middle of Stahma, sitting in my trailer. Just me, my boots, and my wolfhound, my scotch, listening to everybody duke it out outside. And of course, I've got two stray dogs in with me. I've got the representative of the Women of Defiance in my trailer, as well as our local botanist and linguist, Barry. Michelle, how you guys doing?
Why, hello there. I love that intro, by the way.
Hi, hello.
We got a great show for you guys. It's episode 38, and we're basically going to be talking about our beasts of burden. And believe me when I say, everything that happened in this show, you wouldn't see it coming. Let's go ahead and discuss episode 4 of Defiance. Fias?
Yeah, actually, I'm not sure what to say, other than this is probably one of the most impressive ones that I've seen so far. Didn't go to the gym because I wanted to see the live tweeting.
Wow,
yeah,
that's
my
impressive.
My doctor would be upset, but, you know, whatever.
Well, you know, it was a pretty damn good episode to miss, so, or not miss.
Yeah.
I would have definitely stayed tuned for the live tweet of this one just because we kind of knew something was going down, but holy wow, I did not see that coming. And there we go, full circle already. We're only like 2 minutes into the show. Ben called it.
Yeah, that scene, that
they
first scene before they did the credits was something.
That was pretty nuts. I mean, clearly we know that nothing ever good happens when you're in a land coach. I mean, it's now should be labeled, you know, a hazardous form of travel. I don't know why people always want to, you know, catch a land coach. Keep talking here. But yeah, it was pretty intense. And so I've been trying
to stay up because I'm so riveted by the episodes that I've been trying to stay up for the West Coast viewing because it's not really that late, 11 o'clock.
And to see you guys' reactions. It's just so fun to know what's coming and then to see you guys have to...
It's kind of like the Red Wedding reactions from the people who had read the books and then all the people who watched the show later, you know?
Right, and yeah, it's like, oh, you didn't see that coming? Neither did we when we first encountered
interesting.
It. But
yeah, I don't understand why they don't have bulletproof glass and armoring, you know, and all that stuff on their land coaches.
Right. I mean, they need to wear helmets. I mean, it's like riding around. It's like more dangerous than what's one of those dangerous things that you do in the mud? Four-wheeling or something like that. God, I'm like worse than Mayor Pottinger.
From South Carolina calls it mud bugging. I don't know if that's a general term or whatnot, but that's what she calls it.
That mud bugging, I have to remember that. Maybe they should start doing that in episodes.
You know,
of
just
Defiance.
the whole
cool.
episode of nothing but driving through mud, and you know that might get the you know the four-wheeler people and ATV guys to watch.
That's right. Get them some excitement.
Beasts of Burden. Michelle, you want to go ahead and lead us into a recap because man.
Yeah, there's a lot to recap. I mean, they pack a lot into 43 minutes. So, in short, we start off on a road trip through the Badlands, which can only end badly and probably end in violence and people dying. But this time, Pottinger and Berlin are on their way back from Cedars with a shipment of mining equipment that's going to help them kind of harvest that goulanite at an even unsafer pace than they already are. And they're hijacked by raiders. And, well, we're led to believe that they're raiders. And you guys are gamers, so they're wearing the masks like raiders, I assume. Did you immediately think they were raiders? Or did you know automatically that these aren't real raiders?
I thought they were raiders only because the Raiders all wear kind of crazy stuff, at least in the Bay Area. They kind of have uniforms on the Bay Area, but I personally didn't see that they were who they turned out to be. I thought they really were actually Raiders trying to get the stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, they definitely did look like Raiders the first time I saw them, but I kind of assumed that they weren't, only because the show is constantly throwing us for a loop, and we haven't gotten 99ers, we haven't actually gotten real Raiders, so, I wasn't expecting it. But those masks look pretty cool.
They were awesome masks. I kept wanting to make a reference. I mean, the only references that kept coming up in my mind were Jason and ice hockey, but they really, and maybe a little bit of the Cowardly Lion, Wizard of Oz for one of them, but they did very well. That art department was on it with those masks.
I really liked the use of the antlers, and I wish that they had brought that one into the game, because that mask is for sale, but it doesn't have the antlers. It's got some other crazy thing that makes it look like elf ears.
Some kind of weird folded sort of thing on the side.
And then the first time I saw them, the red hockey mask with the shotgun shells, I didn't realize they were shotgun shells until I really looked at it. Yeah.
Well, and I don't even think I realized that until I either read it or did Rafe say it or something? I didn't even realize it when I was first looking at him on the screen.
Pottinger made a description to Nolan.
Mm-hmm.
We got Pottinger.
Poor Pottinger.
Basically out in the cold and given a shower.
Yeah, and that's because there are no rest stops anywhere in the Badlands, so they just kind of have to hold it. But that was really, so that was Joseph in that mask. He, we didn't know that at the time, but now we do. And, he has a right to be really angry at Pottinger. So I would say he actually let him off easy.
Okay, question.
Mm-hmm.
Did you expect the golden shower?
No. Did not.
Not at all. No.
And I'm calling this the episode of You Didn't See It Coming, because, wow. I totally expected the gun to the face. I totally expected the shaming, but...
how did they get that past
the
network censors?
That's basic cable.
And even earlier that day, Tom Lieber had tweeted something of the nature of Pottinger's pissed, Stahma's pissed, everyone's pissed, and I still didn't get it. I had no earthly idea what he was talking about, and oh god, it was just so gross. And then the worst part is after he got golden shower on, he had to lean down in the dirt, and it's just how gross.
Cold and wet.
Hellbugs has a good point in the chat room. She says, "Does anyone honestly ever expect a golden shower?"
Well.
Which she has a good point. Who knows? I just have to say, in that whole scene, thank goodness poor Berlin was just knocked unconscious right away. And I'm kind of glad that they didn't do anything to her. Imagine if they had done the same thing to her, we would be having a very different conversation right now. Like that would just be unforgivable.
There's one thing that I could not buy. That camera filmed Joseph with his mask off. Not once did I see him stumble with his mask.
I'm so glad you said that. I was looking back, rewatching it, and trying to figure out when he had taken his mask off. That's not a mask that can just kind of slip off. He didn't get it from Hobby Lobby or Party City. It's on.
Yeah, so
that was a little weird.
That was the one thing I couldn't buy. But Pottinger gets a little gift, a nice golden one, and then we move into Defiance, where Nolan is tasked to find these gift givers. Let's just call them.
And he's got his own way to do it, too, because, the way Pottinger wants to initially search out these fellas is not the way that Nolan wants to do it.
Yeah, well, Pottinger was very hot-headed and angry, and I wouldn't blame him for his attitude. We saw what he said to Amanda.
I'm curious, did you all think that his confession was actually accurate and real? And chat room, did you think it was a real confession about what happened to him by the Votans in what I assume was a safety boarding school or something during the Ark Falls?
I kind of bought it only because he's rich and privileged enough for me to believe the story that his parents wanted him safe and out of harm's way by sending him to boarding school at the age of 15.
Right, yeah, he's privileged, exactly.
I believed that. I don't know if I believed the whole story.
Yeah, and even if I did believe part of it, I'm not sure he's giving the full picture. And he didn't actually finish his story. What makes me doubt this whole thing is he didn't finish the story.
He didn't actually come out and say it.
Exactly. He just somehow knew, maybe, I don't know, that Amanda would know what he meant. And the whole thing was a little creepy, and not in golden shower kind of way, but just in a stealthy kind of way.
I said this a couple episodes ago, and I'm going to stand by it. Pottinger is an evil genius. Okay, everything that he does is planned. Absolutely everything. I'm actually convinced he may be the one who raped Amanda.
Me too. I think that
He
too.
knew Connor Lang, so...
Yeah, he did know Connor Lang, and he's been stalking her since the beginning of the series. And granted, he's been there, I'm assuming, for 9 months, and we don't know what's happened within those 9 months. He could have been stalking her for any reason, but I honestly believe he's been following her since her career in New York.
I agree.
Really wants her.
Yeah.
I agree. And Amanda never saw who attacked her. She only saw the bright light. I agree. That whole thing's very fishy and really horrible if we are right.
Sexually assaulted by Votans. Do we even know if Votans are...
into that?
Yeah.
Yeah, and what, he wasn't specific either. What, were these indigenes? Were these the Volge? Like, what? Who did he get, assaulted by?
And he said that sometimes he remembers their faces. There's 7 different races of Votans, and each one looks more different than the last. He'd definitely know at least which race it was.
Yeah, you'd know if it was a Liberata trying to, hold you down. Yeah, the whole thing, I'm so glad you touched on it, because the whole thing was just a little weird. But you know what? Amanda was too busy chugging her scotch. She didn't notice anything.
Well, I don't think she's of the right mindset right now to notice anything.
Mm-hmm.
She's getting worse as the season goes on. Worse with her scotch drinking, worse with her drug habit. And we're going to see next episode that I think that's what's causing her hallucinations. And I'm going to call them hallucinations. But we'll talk about that with next week's preview. So let's go ahead and talk about Nolan and actually going after the Raiders.
Nolan knows he's a good tracker. Isn't it accurate? He actually had an inkling that he didn't think this was a Raider job. I think he thought it was miners from the get-go.
No, I thought maybe he started off thinking it was Raiders. Definitely. But when he saw one of the boys on the slab and one of the E-Rep boys on the slab and saw the boot print, when Tommy pointed it out, I don't think he noticed before that. I think the pieces fell in his mind right then and there.
Doc Yule was supposed to be doing the autopsy on these boys, and she didn't think to mention... Maybe she just hadn't gotten to that body yet.
That's what I'm thinking.
Okay, because she didn't notice that Goulenite footprint.
She did notice. She did do an initial once-over. I mean, she said it was a single shot, so she knew how that person died, but I don't know why she didn't notice a boot print.
I just love the literal interpretation. This is why I love Nolan. He is so literal that he literally brushed off the notion that this was... a Goulenite footprint. Like, he literally just brushed off the evidence.
Not.
Just fantastic.
I think that's your 4th pun tonight, and that's awesome.
And we're just getting started.
I don't think anybody actually noticed these things until they listened to the actual episode. But yeah, man, we are so full of puns. He brushed off the Goulenite. He immediately denounced the fact that it could have been Rafe, or Rafe was involved, or that it was miners. And Tommy is like a bloodhound. He's picked up a scent, and he's not going to let it go. But I think that he'll pick up any scent right now that would come back and harm anything that Nolan touches.
Yeah,
have you guys noticed how angsty he is lately?
Any boy that reads, he's young, he's reading to Arissa from Moby Dick. He's an emotional, guy. He's romantic, but lately he has just been very staunchly one side or the other. He's one of those characters that I haven't found any gray areas with him.
He's doesn't seem to. He's like, either this is good, this is bad. It's not, well, maybe,
Well, I don't even think it's an issue of black and white. He's not doing his job. That's not the issue. It's, this woman hurt me. This is her father. He hurt me. I was beginning to think of him like a father, and they both left me. I'm going to sit here and pout for a week. Then I'm going to turn that poutiness into anger. He's a petulant teenager.
Yeah, that's a perfect word. Exactly.
I don't know if he's ever going to get back with Arissa. I know he still has feelings for Arissa. Everybody knows he's got feelings for Arissa. That is so obvious.
Yeah, and he's really got a thing for these kind of harsh, unemotional women, Between Arissa, going from Arissa to Berlin, who refuses to be called by her real name.
See, that's the thing. I think Berlin is sensing the Tommy Arissa friction, and that there's still something behind it, that she's trying to be a little more like Arissa. I mean, it's obvious at one point, she let him call her by her first name, not just Berlin. Yeah. So she may be a tough girl, but I think that she's being a little more than her usual self, just trying to keep her man. So this is going to be an interesting love triangle.
Yeah, Yeah, I don't know if it's worth it at this point, but yeah, I agree. Meanwhile, I'm amazed that Berlin can repair a camera that's been completely smashed to bits. I mean, she's either really good or the writers didn't realize how horribly smashed her camera was in that first scene. But she was going to recover the image that she has of Joseph.
If I'm somewhat right, the camera was small, okay? So it's not a written disc. It's got to be a flash disc. And if you crush the chip, there is no recovery.
Yeah.
Right.
If any kind of magnet goes, there's no recovery. That scene was very implausible and hard to believe, but it moved the story along.
Exactly. It was meant as a catalyst for Joseph to do another dumb thing. I mean, poor Joseph.
That was
Jesus.
my running thought, is like, this guy is the stupidest.
Well, he's always had his father to rein him in. He lost his father. His baby brother got killed by hellbugs. I mean, what does the boy have left?
Yeah, and this is the same boy who, in the episode where his brother did get killed, they were both, going to free themselves by running through Hellbug Country, which may or may not have been a great idea. And the whole time I just felt so bad for Rafe. I mean, I'm sure Rafe is just like, God, Luke couldn't have chosen like a smarter friend here. I got to deal with this dummy the whole time. To bring the equipment back to Rafe's mansion, he could have hid it anywhere, and it would have been safer than bringing it back there.
I love what Carly says in the chat room. He's a Scooby-Doo villain.
Yeah.
Definitely is.
That's so true.
Except at the end when they pull off the mask, no, they shoot him in the back.
Yeah. Oh,
Speaking of getting shot in the back, what do you guys think of Rafe?
I don't know what to think. I mean, I know why he did it. I mean, every parent gets upset with their, child or like child. But I just thought, I don't know what Rafe was thinking at that point, because Rafe could not have possibly thought that Pottinger wasn't already on to him in some way. So I'm not sure. Was he just trying to prove something for later by shooting him?
Well, maybe he thought that Joseph would get caught, tortured, and then killed, because, Pottinger is he's willing to do whatever, to prove a point, so.
There was a point that Rafe would put family first. His boys, Christy, it was all about family. I mean, he left his wife and kept her away from the family just to keep them safe, right? Now, he's lost most of his family. The little bit of family he's got left is being idiotic and stupid. Yeah. And right now, I think that his loyalties lie more with the town of Defiance than with his family. He would have put his family first. Now he's putting his family second because the town needs him more. And I think that's what's going on.
I can buy that. It's interesting, though, that he shot him in the back, because when you think of that on the surface, you think that that's kind of a coward move. But I mean, I guess he didn't want Joseph to see what was coming. And here we go again. Full circle. You couldn't have chosen better words to describe this episode, Ben.
Didn't see it coming.
Yeah.
But you're right. I don't think he wanted Joseph's last image to be of Rafe shooting him in the face.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Let it happen. Swift and sudden and none the wiser. That was a mercy from Rafe.
Right.
Again, I think that he's putting the town's needs in front of his own family's. Because yes, the miners do need somebody to stand up and and lead a revolt. Joseph is not the one to do it.
No.
Clearly not.
He's just going to keep getting himself into trouble. And I think the best and most merciful thing to do is to put him out of his misery himself, than to let Ereb do it. So
it was a merciful shooting in the back. I can buy that. But kudos to Graham for that scene, because I've never seen Rafe have that level of emotion ever.
This is not true. We saw him quite ecstatic when he found out Christy was having a baby.
Yes, he smiled a tiny bit, but he was sobbing, and I just felt so bad for him.
Let me just say this. As a fan of Graham Greene, Rafe's character calls for a little less emotion than most other characters do. Because if you watch Graham Greene in any other show, right now he's on Longmire on AMC. He is quite the creeper in that show. And he is intimidating and tough and vile. And he does an excellent job portraying that. So Rafe's character, Rafe has little to no emotion. Graham Greene does a really great job of playing him, though.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Baddie Datak.
Datak.
Oh, man. Oh,
His
Datak.
despicable behavior.
He came back. I mean, he thought he was king of the world. Like, just Henry VIII, like, gluttonous, waltzing through Defiance. He really thought he was just going to waltz right back into his own life.
He learned nothing at all about being 9 months in reverie after, knifing Colonel Marsh with the letter opener.
To be honest, do you know many criminals that do
Well,
learn from being in
True,
prison?
but
Well, this is true. The recidivism rate for Camp Reverie is quite high.
I mean, he just strolls in, he takes charge. He starts to strangle Stahma. He basically crushes, burns, and flattens his son's hand. He kills one of his men to punish all of his men.
And he didn't even, like, kill the oldest man. I thought that was
A
quite
waste of
illogical.
resources.
Well, yeah, I was just like, why would you kill the... I don't know, that just didn't seem like a good general move to me. Like, he wasn't channeling his inner
and I
pattern.
think the guy that he killed was that one that was like pulling for him
Babysat.
in the first season. During the in the council meeting.
Oh, interesting.
So it's like, dude,
Datak.
you killed your own supporter.
Wow, no
Yeah,
reward for loyalty.
Right, messed up.
Now, had he killed the Sensoth, he probably wouldn't have gotten the ass beating he got at the end of the episode.
Agreed, because Rhaegar loves him some Stahma. I mean, that's the only way I can explain the fact that beating actually went down.
That was a thing of beauty, though. I mean, you're right. He came in, thought that he would set things the way they should be, and if not a little bit better in his eyes than it was before. And he was so disillusioned. He walked into that tent not expecting a thing until he saw Stahma's back and knew what was going on.
Yeah, he basically puts Amanda's hallucinations to shame, because he walked in thinking, he was a Don Corleone and he's always going to be. He had to know, he knew Stahma was pulling the strings while he was gone. I think he's caught up in old world logic, and I really don't think that he realized that Stahma could inspire her own loyalty.
So, well, that's the other thing, though. He was so opposed of the old world ways when he was in love with Stahma and trying to get on the ship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now he's reverting back harder and harder as time goes on. Because at first he even said it himself last season. And now that he's in a position of power, he wants everybody to kiss his boots. He wants them to eat shit. Because he's the one in power. And now he's reading out of the Casti Bible. He's putting Stahma back into a
Servile.
servile
Yeah.
role. That's the word I was looking for. Basically cutting her back off. She had a taste of power. He's taking it completely away. Not even a little bit. You can be my second. No, just completely away. He's just getting worse. He's becoming his father, the person he hated the most. And now he's giving thanks to this person for raising him the way he did, and he's going to start using that way of raising on his son. Madness.
Yeah, and Stahma told him, you're becoming your father, which is, I can only imagine is the same as, like, someone telling me I'm becoming my mother. And, you just go, bat shit, basically. What's so frustrating about this is that Alak, I really feel for him, because he's really trying to make it so that, they don't have a Tarr civil war, kind of. He's trying to protect Datak. He said the burn was an accident. I kind of think in some way he's trying to protect his mother, because he doesn't want his mother to go get herself killed, but trying to, avenge this branding that he got at his father's hand.
And yet, instead of choosing himself, which would have been the third option, he chose from one of two evils, his father or his mother. And you could see that in his eyes when he tried to look away at Datak's beating, and she said, never look away, and made him look.
Yeah. And he did. I mean,
he should have taken lead. He should be the one running this.
I agree, and I think that that's where... So Stahma saying you're turning into your father isn't going to do anything. We all know your partner telling you something really doesn't make a difference. Like, you need someone else to tell you something to actually have it make a dent in your brain. And Alak needs to be the one to confront his father. And I hope by the end of season 2, he's learned his place and that he actually can step up and stand up for himself as well.
Stahma did.
Yeah.
And she is not relinquishing that power without a fight, as evidenced by the end of the episode.
Oh, man. That cast with him, like, this is, treatment. I just really wish seen the scene where Stahma calls up a meeting and is like, okay, this is how it's going to go down. I mean, she's really calling in some favors here.
I don't know what kind of hold she's got on those men, but, maybe loyalty does go a long way. They saw the increase in production. They saw the profits, and they realized Datak is just mad with power.
I wonder if she's, giving them some sort of increase, promotions, whatever.
Pay increase?
That sort of thing.
She's not walking into a tent and slicing one person's throat for the good of everybody else, so there's that.
And she has connections in the Bay Area now. I mean, she's branched out, to me, probably more than Datak has. Maybe they know
she knows how to run a business.
She's smarter.
So let's talk about our thoughts and observations. Let's start with Pottinger's problem with Rafe's riffraff. Let's talk about that. Anything that you guys noticed that was worth mentioning?
Well, with Pottinger, I actually thought that he handled this entire thing very, very well. So he got urinated on in public. That not only was kind of a trigger for his past, but he actually just went back home and, he had Nolan find the James Bond briefcase, all the equipment, and he just got right back down to business, and in the meantime may have been swindling Amanda on the side. So I keep wanting to think that he's this psychopath, but he is incredibly smart.
I think you're right for the most part. I still think that the emotions got the better of him. I mean, who wouldn't be really pissed off that they got pissed on?
He's pissed off. They got pissed on. I love it.
Yeah, his emotions did get the better of him, but you are absolutely right. I think he is quite the pragmatist and really has a cool head about him. He is a planner and probably plans way ahead in advance. Yeah. He's intelligent.
Who knows? He may have been planning this years in advance. We have no idea.
Yeah.
As far as the Amanda angle goes. Yeah.
You noticed as soon as he got his stuff back, he went in, he checked the stuff, he grabbed the one thing he really, really wanted, basically said, handle it, but really meant, I don't give a shit what you do anymore. I got what I want.
Right. Which means he has other aspirations aside from maybe planning for a Cold War and harvesting Gulenite. That's not why he's in Defiance.
It's kind of hard to follow with that reasoning. That's my reasoning. I think that he's got absolutely no care in the world after that. He's got what he wanted. He's got a plan going against Amanda. There's nothing else he really needs to worry about. But yet, at the end of the episode, he still wanted to kick Rafe out of the house. And I don't know if that was a political move, or if that was to save face in public, or that was actually emotionally driven. What do you think?
That's a good question. I don't know. Yeah, Barry, what do you say?
Well, I don't know. I thought it might be him just trying to reassert to Rafe that he is the one who runs the show. That kind of...
Not one to miss an opportunity,
right.
You mean?
Yeah, not one to miss an opportunity. Honestly, he knew that Rafe was not a part of that whole thing. Because, he knows that Rafe is afraid that he's going to lose everything. Well, more than he has, but,
Well, and then he did give Rafe a warning once before. I believe it was the first episode.
Yeah.
So everybody gets a warning, and then he performs an action. One warning, and then you get the consequence. So Nolan's been giving a warning this episode. Something may come of it next time.
Yeah, and I mean, Rafe has a nice house. Pottinger likes nice things. I mean, this is probably just a perk of things, that he wants.
At least now we know why he likes the lotion.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because his hands in the glass, right? Is that what you mean?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
I
didn't think that was subtle as far as backstory and tying into the present, but...
Well, I mean, and that was one thing that actually made me think that it was true, was the fact that he likes the nice things, not just because he's privileged, but he specifically mentioned the hand lotion.
Yeah, and how dirty.
When he described his traumatic experience, he specifically mentioned getting on his hands and knees and getting cut hands, and then he started visibly shaking when he was telling the story. So, yeah, I believed his story for the most part.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that.
He may have changed something to pull Amanda in, or he may be clever enough to use the truth to lure her in. Because, it's much easier to believe the truth than it is to believe a lie.
We all know that Amanda is very sympathetic to people with,
With sad stories?
Yeah, with sad stories. Yeah,
Yeah, she's like the perfect bartender in that regard. I mean...
No, bartenders just listen. They don't share.
That's true. She only shared to get her drugs. She's like, maybe I can get this bump for free if I share my trauma.
You had something to say about Rafe laying on the rhetoric about ERAPs and the consequences it brings.
Yeah, I kind of felt bad for Broseph, Yosef. Like, all he was doing was he had been listening to Rafe. Imagine for the past 9 months, and even in the first episode, Rafe was talking shtack about the E-Reps. He was saying they're working people too hard. So basically Rafe's, building people up. Rafe's saying all these revolutionary things. And then when, poor dumb Joseph tries to do something about it, then Rafe's like, what are you doing? Like, that's not what I meant. Like, I didn't mean to do any of this. And so I felt bad for him. But I also felt bad for people that grew up during and after the Pale Wars, because clearly they don't have access to any type of movie or film or anything that could have showed them how to pull off a heist in a more appropriate manner. So they're just kind of winging it. And meanwhile, Rafe's like, you haven't even seen Home Alone or any movie
Ocean's
about
11,
Yeah, and you haven't seen any of that. So I felt a little bad for him.
In a revolution, there's always somebody that talks about revolution, and there's always somebody that steps up and does revolution. In Rafe's case, I think it was even before the talks revolution. He was just talking stacco about E-Rep, and somebody's picking that up who wants a revolution and is thinking, that's what he means. That's exactly what he means. I need to get up and I need to do something about this. No, I think that Rafe was just talking shit. And this poor, dumb boy who wants a change, and rightly so, took it in his own hands, and really very inexperienced hands to do that. So I think Rafe was just talking shit, and Yosef was just listening and interpreting it his own way.
Yeah, that's true.
Young revolutionaries, that sort of thing.
There's a right way to do a revolution, and there's the really stupid way. And I think we've fallen into the stupid way.
And speaking of also stupid, I mean, Datak in this episode was not acting very, very smart.
Last episode, I'd say he was pretty intelligent. And this episode, there was a couple scenes where I thought, wow, he caught on, and he did this on his own. And, good for him. But no.
Right.
He basically told Stahma after he tried to drown her while she was sleeping. How creepy was that?
Yeah, that was, yeah.
He was willing to excuse himself from what he did to her. Him. I mean, how pious can you be?
Well, and he couched it with, my father would have done this, but I'm giving you mercy. You should love me.
Right.
And she turns around and says, yeah, this is a new world. I'm completely agreeing with you. And because it's a new world, you should make me partner. And he's like, no, I'm going back to the old ways. Mm-mm.
Sorry, lady. Bye.
It was a slow burn. Stahma really got shut down a couple of times in this episode before the end. It was kind of a slow burn in that regard. And Jamie Murray did a great job because...
I wouldn't even call it a slow burn. I'm sorry. He kept piling it on thick. One thing after another until she snapped. And boy, did she snap gracefully.
I'm surprised Datak still has both of his feet. I'm surprised she didn't go any Wilkes all over that mofo and, tie him to the bed. I mean... Wow. Just the things, and for her to keep a straight face during all of this was just
she even
impressive.
Tried her normal, let's be demure and submissive, and then he's like, whatever.
And then she hires some people.
Yeah.
Not to get her hands dirty, she hires people. And you know what? He sees right through that. As soon as they stumble with one single word, he saw right through it and knew it was Stahma's doing. And then she took the direct approach.
Oh, wow. So that's a great way to look at it, because I was wondering why all of us... So you think Datak was smart enough to know that Arissa paid those E-Reps to antagonize him?
Yeah, I think he figured it out pretty quick, yeah. As soon as they said,
yeah, that explains it.
She tried her way. She tried a stronger approach to her way. And then she said, oh, Stacco, I'm just going to do it myself. And she got the boys together, and they had a little party.
Yeah. That makes more sense, because I was wondering why is Datak all of a sudden he's found Raietsu and he's not gonna go ape stack all over them, and I was wondering why he didn't do that. But that is a great point, because he was doing it because he knew what Stahma was up to.
When Datak knows he's playing a game, he will play the game. When he thinks that you are just insulting him and you're a stupid fool at the bottom of his boot, trying to say things that are bigger than you to somebody so dangerous, he's going to come down on you and stab you with a letter opener.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Datak knows when he's playing the game, and he plays it very well. But he lets his emotions get the better of him when he's not playing the game. And that's what's going to get him, catching him with his pants down.
Yeah, and maybe, we assume that Stahma has, the upper hand, which she does in this episode, but... if you guys are right and that Datak knows what she's doing, he's going to play her game as well as she can.
But did you notice that they both were ramping it up? They were both toying with each other this whole episode. They both were. I am convinced that Datak not only wanted to show Alak, who was boss, and have him pay for his transgressions, he did it also to hurt Stahma.
Yeah, he knew that would hurt her. I believe that fully.
And then when he was sitting there reading that Bible and coming up with that excuse of trying to find out why men would lay their lives down for faith and finding interesting things in that Bible that he can fall in line with, he may have started off planning that, or he may have just done it because he believes it as well as to spite Stahma. So every scene this episode where it was Datak and Stahma, they both increased the level of the game until, in the end, Stahma checkmate.
You know, his father was a priest, so he's not unfamiliar with religion and, you know, men laying down their lives for faith and all that stuff.
So then it stands to reason he didn't need to open that book to find it out, but he was doing so.
Right.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that, so whenever Stahma wears pants, nothing good is going to come of that? Because the last time she wore white jeans was before she killed Kenya, and this time when she was wearing those fabulous ABBA pants, she, went and did some dirty business too. So those are her business pants. I mean...
Again, staying in the theme of this episode, did you see any of that coming? Did you see Stahma beating up Datak, or did you see Datak punishing Alak by smushing his hand?
No.
No, I didn't see that.
I'm sorry, but the viciousness of that action was way beyond what Datak is normally capable of.
You mean the hand press? I agree.
Hand press.
Yeah, that was... I wondered about that because he didn't plan that. Alak should know better than to keep the power running that long. There was nobody in that factory. Maybe he should have turned off the record press. I love how it's just on for, narrative purposes. But clearly, Datak hadn't planned how he was going to harm Alak. He saw an opportunity, and it presented itself. That was a little weird, I thought, even for Datak.
Well, and then Stahma's actions were very direct, which is not the way Stahma plays.
Yes.
That was also taken by surprise. I was expecting her to take a little longer. I was expecting her to have somebody else do this. And yeah, she had the boys do it for her, but she was present, and she let Datak know, this was my doing. You should have made me partner.
Yeah, she stepped it up. Generally, how we've seen Stahma work. She works behind the scenes. And, even in the past few episodes, when she whispered in Rhaega's ear to beat up Skevur, that was behind the scenes as well. And so Datak really set her off. I mean,
and
I
good.
don't know what's going to happen.
Datak caused more harm than good this episode.
Yeah, for himself.
For himself, yes.
At least he got that one good meal at the diner. That was an amazing scene. Tony Curran was just so fun. And did you guys see, I think Jesse Rath tweeted that he ad-libbed in that record press scene where when he said, you might want to put some ice on that. I think that was a Tony Curran classic right there.
Yeah.
Oh my, and then some of the lines he was coming up with. You should give me a hug now, wife. I mean...
Oh, that was fantastic.
I was like, wow. And then he was like, and now we can begin again. And stroking Alak's hair. And it's just, wow. This guy is so disillusioned.
And it's going to be fun to see that sort of hallucinatory kind of view on life couple with Rafe McCauley, who basically is the most non-disillusioned man you'll ever meet.
Well, he works in the mines. He's very down to earth,
Yeah.
Another pun.
Yay! So let's talk about some other issues that or other observations we've made, and namely, they deal with Tommy.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry. I love Tommy. Well, let me rephrase this. I love Duchesne, who plays Tommy, but Tommy works my nerves. He's just so rigid, and he's a snitch.
I want to slap him, for everything he's been doing so far. He's just like...
Not in a good way, right, Barry?
Yeah, not in a good way. But it's like, dude, you need to calm the hell down. Seriously, you need to get over it and calm the hell down.
Yeah, agreed.
Rissenura says it perfectly in the chat. Lonely Nerdette, you are absolutely right. Tommy is an idiot. He is too involved in his emotions to even make a smart decision. We all know Nolan is a better tracker, a better lawkeeper than Tommy will ever be. He is more experienced. Just because Tommy's been there longer, and really how much longer has he been there, doesn't mean that he deserves to be the lawkeeper. Yet. No, Tommy is taking it personally.
Well,
He is holding that grudge.
he even made Amanda yell at him.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, Amanda wouldn't normally yell at him. I mean, if you're Tommy and you're sitting there and Amanda's yelling at you, you're doing something wrong, kid. Straighten up.
That's true. Aside from the drugs and the hookering and the alcoholism, Amanda is my moral compass. And if she's telling me that you're not playing nicely, Tommy, then I believe it.
I'm going to have to drink to Amanda on that one.
Yeah. Raise a scotch to Amanda. Everyone in the
Wow.
chat room who's of legal age should do the same.
I mean, you are right. She is our moral fortitude. She is our rock. And yet, she sure makes a great whorehouse, doesn't she?
Yeah, I mean...
Which reminds me, how great was that line by Nolan?
Wait, which one? He had a lot of good... Oh, I have to go rescue a woman?
No.
Okay.
You mean I'm not having sex because you have to go to a meeting about the whorehouse?
Yeah. So funny. And number one, okay, two things really quickly from that. Nolan is the worst pillow talker I've ever heard. Like, it was just such vanilla kind of like, come on to you talk. And second, I believe that Amanda, it just proves that like women will definitely lie about more, that like they'll fake an orgasm and they'll tell you they have a staff meeting just so you'll get from off the top of them. Like, she didn't have a staff meeting because in the next scene she was literally right there at the mayor's office.
No, but she had a staff meeting.
A shaft meeting, yeah.
She was probably late for another appointment. Sorry, Nolan, you're just not that interesting right now. Wow. So yeah, Tommy was a righteous idiot.
Yeah.
And that's all I'm going to say on that because, I mean, we've talked about Tommy to death. He is just following his heart, and he is butthurt right now. So maybe he'll come around at the end of the season. We'll see. I'm sorry, Duchesne. You're a great actor. Your character right now kind of sucks. Favorite scenes? Dislikes? Let's start with you, Barry. You got any favorite scenes?
Mine was probably the very end, Stahma's group meeting of Datak. That was probably my favorite scene because she topped it off very nicely at the end by very gently pulling his hair back and saying, "You should have made me a partner," and then walking off.
Oh man, what great makeup too.
That
Datak really looked like he was in pain.
Oh yeah, he really looked like he got the shit kicked out of him. But that was very drag queen of Stahma right there for that little flounce. I loved it.
What about you, Michelle? I mean, we got some great scenes this episode.
Yeah, so many. I mean, I actually liked the record store scene, not with the hand branding, but just the way Datak was walking around and picking up records. And, I just wanted him to say, like, in my day, we listened to, this. Tony's just so fun. But then I like the scene afterward because, poor emasculated Alak. Like, he's really trying. He's trying to keep his family together, and he just is not able to do it in the right way. And I liked his scene with Christy as well.
And twice did Datak put him down about his record business. The first time saying, I thought you'd make something of yourself, be a real pillar of the community with your record station or record store. And then the second time, Tarr Traxx. That's cute. I mean,
yeah.
How much did that hurt you just watching the show? Imagining how Alak felt.
It's such a new earth insult too. Like, it's it's something that Datak learned to say, like, oh, cute, in the most defamatory way that he could possibly manage. It was just fantastic. What was interesting about that scene, though, is that it was Stahma's idea to use the record store as a front for the drug business. And, Datak was not for this at all, and he said so. But he realizes that Stahma actually had a great idea, and he's going to go with it. That whole thing was kind of interesting, even though I didn't like the violent turn that it took.
And, Carly has an interesting thing to say in the chat room, and it's absolutely true. Poor Alak can only sound off at Christy. That's how tough he is.
Oh, you are correct. Oh my gosh, how horrible is that? Like, you can only kind of talk tough to your muggle wife, the wife who has
whoa. Muggle?
Yes.
I don't think Alak has any kind of magic, but okay.
Well,
the parallel, like,
humans
I feel
are now muggles.
I feel
That's
bad.
awesome.
Oh, you're right. They kind of are, because in Alak's mind, Chrissy doesn't have the superpower capabilities of, any of the Kassathan women in the bath, or the ability to understand violence. So,
Okay, I
like,
have a question.
yeah.
Why is Chrissy so offended at the fact that she's not Castithan enough?
Yeah, I thought that was weird too. She does know she's a human, right?
Yeah,
Maybe
absolutely.
she has Stockholm syndrome or something. I don't know.
she's been living in the house for too long. That's so true.
But I am Casty.
That was weird. I thought that the way they wrote that dialogue was a little weird because I was like,
We understand she's trying to fill in as a Castithan wife, and she's trying really hard. But everybody knows, and especially Christy, who's got the best interest at heart. She's got the best heart, period.
yeah.
She knows to keep her humanity up front and center. That's why Alak liked her.
Well, she's losing sight of that, which is kind of horrible.
I did like that she had that burst of vengeance on her mind.
About Datak?
Yeah. She's like, I want him to suffer. That sort of thing.
Yeah, that was kind of hot. And I think we're going to see her harness that impulse for violence later on in the season, or at least I hope so, because she can't just continue to be this gentle human wife. I think living in that Tarr house is going to do some crazy stuff to her.
I hope not. She's so pure. Honestly, she's innocence right there. She's trying so hard. She's bathing with her mother-in-law, getting
Boob
breasticles to the face. I mean,
Breasticles.
it just...
Oh, I have to file that away.
She's trying so hard, and I think she is becoming part Casty. She got offended by the fact that she was not Casty enough, and Bear, you're right. She wanted to jump on that vengeance bandwagon right then and there. So yeah.
I'm sorry. Ever since you've said breasticles, I just keep channeling.
Tuned me out.
Yes, and I keep channeling Doc Yule. I'm like, so that's what it looks like. Like, it's like a breasticle. Oh my gosh, this is fantastic. Sweet dreams, everyone. But back to the sweet, innocent Christy. I agree with you that
We've gone way past sweet and innocent now.
and she's going to be a mother soon. She's, from what I hear, that does something to a woman, and maybe she's going to, be more protective and.
And Lord knows what happens to a human woman who gives birth to half a Casty baby.
Yeah.
What kind of chemistry is going on in terms of hormones?
Yeah.
Is going on inside of Christy, and what is it going to bring out in her? Is she going to be absolutely amazingly Stepford wife, or is she going to turn into Stahma times 10?
Right. Or as Hellbugs points out in the chat room, what if she shares some of the predispositions with her mother, Pilar?
Or it's all three wrapped up in one.
God, that's a spin-off happening right there. That's crazy.
If you're going to be a Stepford wife and then you're going to be Stahma times 10, that's kind of bipolar right there.
Yeah, those are two extremes for sure. All wrapped up in one.
So yeah, go ahead.
I do have to say really quickly that there was, whenever I liked this is going to come off wrong, but I liked that, what doesn't, but I liked that in this episode, you give a woman like a rape backstory. And in this instance, I thought that it was done really well. But I also really liked that they, even if it wasn't true, maybe it is, maybe it isn't, that they paralleled it with kind of a male take on sexual assault as well. And so those two scenes together, I really did like, even though I may not believe them.
I understand why you think that sounds wrong, and you're right. A lot of TV shows like to put the female lead as a victim at one point in her past, and that's what draws other people in, and that's what makes her strong in the present, and that's total bullshit.
Right.
In this particular instance, it started off with the male lead. I mean, not lead, but
right.
Male main character with a sexual assault background, and then the woman coming in and comforting with her own story of something similar. So you're right. It was very well done. It was very well pulled off. Kudos to the writers and Sci-Fi for breaking the norms and bringing it a way that sounds a little more realistic anyways.
Yeah, exactly. So I did like that. Wait, one last thing I'm sorry, that was a dislike. One thing that, it's unavoidable because you're doing kind of these serial episodes and there's not enough time in one episode for everyone. But the idea that Arissa was kind of in the background of all these scenes, but, this week Urzu was kind of warming the bench. Like, there were no visions. There was nothing, remotely creepy about it. It's unavoidable. I get it. But at the same time, I noticed that Arissa's there, and I noticed that we're not talking about Urzu this week.
Well, we kind of needed a break from Irzu, but you're right.
Yeah.
She is the main focal point. It feels like the story's not being driven forward, but I mentioned this before. I feel like this show is driving the story forward, but not in one definitive way. It's not just through Irzu and Orisa. It's also not through the side stories of these dramatic people, and we're building their stories and stuff. It's more about the little things, like Pottinger getting his own ego.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what was in his briefcase. It wasn't said, and we're, as viewers, or as at least the gaming viewers, are pretty damn sure that was an ego device. That was a delivery system for an ego, and it was from Bondbach Industries. So that has something to do with Orisa. That has something to do with protecting yourself against what's to come. They're driving the story forward, but they're doing it from the back.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we did need a break from Irzu, honestly.
Yeah, what a downer.
Hopefully the next episode doesn't have a lot to do with Irzu as well. And then after that, we'll bring it all head on.
Yeah, after that, stuff's going to start having to hit the fan for sure.
Yeah, because we've only got 12 episodes, and honestly, I still don't think 12 episodes is enough.
I know.
I love this fast-paced action and driving mysteries and stories and character development, but 24 episodes would have been totally better.
Yeah, I don't like the short, I mean, a show like American Horror Story can do 12 episodes, but, this show just has too much going on to really, I think, fully get the story out in, 12 episodes, so.
Agreed.
If you've noticed, most shows and networks are taking on this half-season type of season. 12 episodes, and you start getting big-name actors in, apparently. But it's just a side comment. It's very interesting. 12 episodes seems to be the magic number now.
It doesn't lend itself to good sci-fi, though, because good sci-fi science fiction is it's all about the layered kind of rich world. And, you can't really get that in such a short amount of time. And, the set's already built. It's like everything's there. I mean, at this point, we would watch, we don't need big name actors or anything in this show, per se. Not that we don't already have them, but I just mean, everything's already there. Why not just extend it a little while?
People who are true sci-fi fans are going to hate me for saying this, but I think sci-fi is getting better and better as time goes on. Sci-fi television, as time goes on. We started off with Star Trek and Doctor Who, and the number of episodes that fell in a season was enormous. I mean, Star Trek would have had 28 episodes a season. At least Next Generation did.
Yeah.
And then we had Stargate, and then we had series after series after series of spin-offs. And honestly, let's use Stargate for an example. We had Stargate, SG-1, and then we had things like Atlantis, which was short-lived, and other things like that. And then Universe came out. Stargate Universe was a short series, was very dramatic, and it was very rich in people's drama and suffering and how these people lived on a single ship, and it was compact. It was in 12 episodes each season, and then it got canned. I'm so afraid that that's going to happen to Defiance, but you know what? They follow the same formula, and it is doing so well.
Mm-hmm.
At least what I've seen on Twitter, these fans come out, they want to watch the show, the actors are engaging with us, and it just makes for better sci-fi.
Yeah, agreed. And Hellbugs did point out that because last season the pilot was in 2 episodes, so there are 13 episodes this season. So yeah, thanks Hellbugs.
12 to 13 episodes is usually what's ordered now. Before it was 22 to 26 episodes for a season. Now it's half that. So I was just going with the general 12. Mm-hmm. Fargo was 12 this season. Universe was 12 the last season. It was cut off. And these short episodes, while they kind of suck because we want more, they're making for a tighter, well-concise story.
True.
Because they can plan for a beginning and an end.
Yeah. Well, and, they don't have to spend so much time trying to keep the continuity going.
Right. And you just fiend for more and more, so...
Speaking of continuity, man, I would love to get my hands on the Defiance Bible right now.
Me too.
Oh, yeah.
So, any speculations, unanswered questions regarding this episode?
I want to know who's going to lead the resistance, now that Thomas Joseph is out of the picture. I mean, it doesn't seem like Rafe is too into it right now, so I just wonder where that's going to leave the town of Defiance.
But, I think that, like I said before, Rafe was just speaking out against Eret because he was angsty, he was angry. His minds were taken from him. He was trying to defend his position as opposed to theirs. And he didn't really want to lead a revolution, but now that Broseph is dead, he's probably going to need to see that void filled, and he's going to put himself in that position. Maybe Rafe is the one that's going to lead this revolution.
Well, he has nothing left anymore to,
Well,
really...
he's still got Christy and her baby.
True. Although, maybe he thinks Stahma and her crew can protect the kid and Christy.
Right now, Rafe needs a hobby, and that's going to be his hobby.
Right.
Instead of fly fishing, revolution.
You also had a question. What is an ego? And that's because...
Yeah, because you guys knew exactly what was in that, James Bond case. All I saw was like an old school 90s Walkman. And meanwhile, all the gamers are like, oh, it's an ego. That's totally an ego. So...
Well, not only did all the gamers say it was an ego, but if you follow Defiance Game on Twitter, they also mentioned it was an ego.
Okay, so...
And they're tied with sci-fi, so I'm pretty sure that's an ego. Don't get me wrong, for those of you who don't play the game, an ego is basically what us Ark Hunters use to survive in the frontier. It's an environmental guardian online. They inject you in the back of the neck, right in the spinal cord, fill you with nanobots, and what it does is it awakens your mind, awakens your capabilities to do certain things.
So Amanda's going to try and get one of those.
Right now, there's only 4 things it enhances, supposedly. But it's created by Von Bach himself from Von Bach Industries. And that's why you saw the VBI on the case itself. Von Bach didn't want to give this to Earth Republic at all. He didn't want to give it to anybody who was in an established army. He wanted for people to go through rigorous testing and whom he deemed worthy to take it, that he would give it to them. And that was the Ark Hunters. Anybody who wants to go out there and as a mercenary or who wanted to survive the frontier, who wasn't part of the military, got an ego if you passed his testing. So how Pottinger ended up with one is a big question, and it's probably going to tie into the game on Monday.
Well, the other interesting thing about the egos is it's based on indigene technology.
Yes. Mm-hmm. It's actually Votan tech that Von Bach was able to kind of reverse engineer. And see, Von Bach was actually working for a different company, and he was able to work with Votan technology, and he was a freaking genius when it came to their technology, and he created Von Bach Industries and came up with the ego. So yeah, it's alien technology that he has established and been able to put into humans, as well as some Votans. I believe some Castithans can use an ego, and nobody in the Earth Republic should have it.
Will he need Docule to help do something with this, probably?
If I remember the Ark Hunter webisodes clearly from episode 1, you get injected in the back of the neck, you feel sick for 24 hours and puke your heart out, and then all of a sudden you've got this interface that only you can see. Your eyes change, and you've got this kind of layover on your vision, so you're basically part cyborg, let's say. And no, just somebody needs to shove it in the back of your spine.
Oh, wow.
In the back of your neck.
So Google Glass never actually panned out. We have to succumb to the ego. Okay.
Exactly.
Yes, ego all the way.
Wow.
Why does Pottinger have an ego device? How did he get it? Somebody in the Cedars had to have supplied it to him. It was stashed in with this mining equipment. How did he get his hands on it? And what are his plans for it? It's very interesting stuff.
Do you think he's going to want to use it, or is he going to want to use it for someone else?
With his ego, I'm sure he wants it himself.
Makes sense. Oh, he can't have... Oh, someone's got to put a stop to that. That sounds dangerous.
What about Rafe? Rafe has just been evicted immediately from his home.
He needs to get himself to the need-want homeless shelter immediately. I mean, I'm pretty sure he's going to go straight to the Tarr household, I would imagine, but I would definitely spend a few nights in the need-want before I did that.
If you've been evicted, well, I guess he would have money. He's not evicted from his job. He's still a minor now, but you're right. I probably would do the same thing. Drown my sorrows in scotch and a woman.
Yeah, exactly. And Amanda will probably give him a night on the house.
Or a sense-off or liberata.
Yeah. Wow. Thinking big.
Well, I mean, come on. He kissed a sense-off and he liked it. Was that Toby Keith? That was Keith Urban.
Keith Urban. Tracy Adkins. I don't even know how I know that, but yeah, that...
Tracy Adkins kissed a sense-off.
There's a reason there's a song about it.
Yeah.
And Nolan's kissed a liberata before, so...
Yeah,
they must be good. What are his future plans? I mean, just because he's homeless, that's fine. He's going to find another place to live. But what are his plans for the future? What is he going to strive for now? Is he going to lead that revolution? Is he just going to sit on his ass at home all day and take a bath with Stahma? I mean, what is he going to do?
So he's got kind of a grand hybrid on the way. I think he's going to be thinking, like you said earlier, what's going to be the best world for my daughter to kind of bring in a new life. So in that regard, he's going to try and do what's best for Christy and what's best for Defiance. And I think he's going to try to shoot for some sort of stability, or to get some sort of stability back into his life.
And then finally, will Tommy ever stop letting his hate get in the way of smart decisions?
I mean,
is he finally going to come around and fall in love with Arissa like... Well, see, I can't say that like he belongs with her, because he's pretty good paired up with Berlin, and Berlin is kind of awesome.
Yeah, I'm feeling them. I think it's...
I want him to just calm the hell down, get over it, stay with Berlin.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Berlin is a good choice for him. Arissa's a good choice for him. I know Lonely Nerdette in the chat room does not want to hear that. She hates Berlin right now.
I know.
But, they make a good fit. And you have to think Tommy is an E-rep right now just because of her.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
That's the only reason he stuck around. Otherwise, he would have stuck with Nolan and said, screw this town, and walked away.
Yeah, I'm surprised he's still around. And they do make an interesting couple, I have to say. But, Tommy, well, clearly he doesn't know Arissa is possessed by, a soul-hungry god. But for his own sake, I wish we could take him aside and be like, do you know what we heard about Arissa? But we can't do that. And so I just hope that Berlin kind of opens up a little more, and it's an interesting triangle that they have.
Lets him call her, what's her name? I forget.
Jessica. Yeah.
Jessica. It's like, come on, let him use your real name. Give him that.
Right, for once. Come on.
He has some needs.
I'm still convinced. She's trying to emulate Arissa just to keep her man. And then that's just, this really does feel like, and Nolan put it first, what high school feels like.
Yeah.
This episode, it's this love triangle shit is very
it's like
high school.
Dawson's Creek in 2047,
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
That's perfect. that was perfect, Barry. I love that.
Perfect.
Let's talk about predictions. You have any predictions, Michelle?
Rafe's life is about to get, and our life for that matter, is about to get really awkward, because as a house guest in the Tarr household right now, imagine it's like going to Thanksgiving dinner, know that both sides of the family are just at war with each other. It's going to be so awkward for Rafe right now.
I don't see how. He's going to take a bath with her, and she's just going to put some breasticles in his face.
Right, not awkward. That's just a regular Shabbat night at the Tarr household. Man, I talk about wanting to convert. Yes, we're going to see him in the bath, and he's kind of a new specimen for Stahma to have to manipulate. In a way, it'll be interesting to see how she goes about using her charms on Rafe Macaulay.
Now, do you think that Rafe is going to be a little easier to charm than Datak was, or do you think he'll be just as easy to manipulate?
I don't know. He'll be easy. I mean, the last, he had was Nikki, a little easy to manipulate.
I think Mayor Nikki had skills at pushing people's buttons. She had become a little sick with humanity and wasn't being a proper indigene, so she knew how to manipulate. But Datak was a challenge for Stahma. He still is a challenge for Stahma to manipulate, but she revels in that challenge. And I think maybe Rafe, in his stubbornness, in his old age, in his unwillingness to change, is going to be just as stubborn as Datak is, or just as challenging to manipulate.
Yeah, like she may not be able to get that all accomplished in one bath.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It'll take a couple baths, yeah. What else did you have for us?
Sneak peek next week with Amanda. We know it's like no longer the girl that you want to bring to parties with you, but so she's going to hit a low point. But I actually do not think that that's going to be her lowest point this season. I think she's much more useful to Pottinger when she's having kind of a bad trip. And, she may have like some come to Urzu moment where she wants to stop doing drugs or what have you. But next week is not going to be the end of Amanda as drug addict. I think that'll keep going.
No. Yeah, she'll probably hit it hard.
Yeah.
You lost me to hit it hard. And also...
I'm really good at that, aren't I? I'm taking you off your
And
tracks.
also next week, I think that Arissa and her friends, the equivalent of like Rafe McCauley's emotions, but seeing Tommy injured may, spur her to kind of open up her heart a little again to him.
Honestly, I don't think she's ever lost her feelings for Tommy.
You don't think so? She's just scared. She's scared because she's possessed by a demon.
No, not even that. I think that she's stepped aside right now to let Tommy figure things out because you know what? Tommy's an idiot.
Exactly.
So Arissa's playing hard to get. She's kind of like, okay, if you really want me.
Not even that. She's sitting back and letting Tommy come to the conclusion himself. That's exactly what she's doing. She's just taking a back seat.
You know what? I can totally see Arissa leaning back and like listening to some Beyonce's Irreplaceable and being like, okay, like, you'll come back eventually.
She doesn't have to do anything. She knows Tommy still has feelings for her. And, that one kiss that she gave him, that was her emotion coming forward. And, she's not a very emotional person on her own. That was enough for her to say, hey, I still got it. I'm right here.
Yeah, that's true. I forgot about that kiss in the cell.
She did her move. She's done her move. It's Tommy's turn to make his. And she's just waiting for him to do it.
What do you think is going to happen? Because you're always right.
Well, honestly,
Ben's
with all this character
right.
development... No, I'm not always right. I still think that Pottinger planned the heist of the mining equipment, but I know I have to be wrong about that because he lost that ego device and he really wanted it back. So I was wrong about that.
Yeah.
Well, all this character development and this side drama is wonderful. It's excellent. I feel we have strayed from what is absolutely important, and that is Arissa and Irzu and what the heck is going on. So I feel that the next episode will be, an important step forward towards discovering what Arissa is really
I don't see them continuing the kind of side character stories.
No, they only have 12 episodes.
Yeah.
They've got to move this forward.
The theme for this season is clearly about what the Kaziri actually is, so they really have to kind of reveal that, I think.
I saw the preview for next week. Everybody's seen the preview for next week, at least after the episode. They haven't seen... I don't know if you've seen the sneak peek or not, but I saw the sneak peek and the preview, and I have to ask, is Amanda starting to lose complete control of herself? Is she that far into her vices that she's losing absolute control? We saw it last episode where she was fighting with the porter, and while Kenya could have settled that, Amanda aggravated the situation and made it worse. I don't see Amanda Rosewater keeping control any further.
You're onto something, because that's actually what frightens me most. She's always been pretty level-headed. She's always been known to do what is maybe the smart thing, even though it may not be, what anyone else would have done. But she usually does the pragmatic thing, and she's not doing that lately.
Yeah, Amanda's losing herself. And I think that next episode we're going to see that in a really big way. And I'm not talking about the obvious, which is she's seeing visions or she's drug overdosing and she's seeing things that aren't really there. That's too easy. I think that it's more in her inability to handle a tense and urgent situation. In other words, she's not going to run for help when she sees Tommy bleeding out. She's going to leave him there, and she's going to run scared.
Hopefully not to the woods.
She's not...
She'll run straight to Pottinger.
Stahma won't be waiting for her. No, I think that she's losing her moral compass. She's not going to be our moral compass soon. She's losing faith in herself. She's losing her mind. She's losing herself in these drugs.
She's turning into an Amy Mann song, is what she is.
Yeah.
That's better.
Yeah, that's worrisome, because she was always the Pollyanna of Defiance, and so to have her kind of do this 360 on us is a little weird. She's already emasculated Tommy in the town, and now she just leave him to bleed out in the middle of Rafe's former Rafe's, house. That's cold.
But I see it happening. I really do. I think that's how much she's losing herself. And it's no fault of hers. She's lost Kenya. She's kind of driven mad about it.
Yeah.
And we've heard other stories about lovers driven mad by the loss of their loved one,
Yeah. So do you think that she actually has, because the whole theme is that she has a stalker in the next episode, do you guys think she actually has a stalker, or that she is just imagining something?
I wouldn't put it past Sci-Fi to actually put a stalker in the episode, but with the way the trailer portrays it, I definitely do not think that there's a stalker and that she's just hallucinating.
Mm-hmm.
It's exactly like she described to Pottinger,
Exactly.
It's too much. It's like, well, okay, no, that's a little bit too exact. So I think it's hallucinating, because they show her on the ground clutching her ears with the thing in her mouth.
Yeah.
Whatever that was.
Yeah, whatever that was. Yeah, I don't know what that was.
And you're right, Barry. It's exactly how she described it to Pottinger. And who else has she told that to? If Pottinger pulls a move on Amanda right now, and that's exactly what he pulls, she's going to know exactly who started it.
Right.
Yeah.
And that reveals his hand way too soon. He's smarter than that.
Yeah.
So there's got to be something else. But we'll see next week.
Yeah.
All right, MVPs of the episode.
Well, I would not be doing my due diligence and leaning in if I did not choose Stahma as my MVP of the episode, because I was actually confused as to how she was going to go about this the entire episode, because sometimes she looked like she was still kind of Datak and she wasn't exactly sure, what he was going to do. But then at the end, I was just really surprised by what she managed to pull together. And she is just pulling out all the punches, literally. And I just thought she did an amazing job.
Oh, I don't think she pulled any punches.
She called him in, basically.
So I initially thought Datak because it was really good acting on Tony Curran's part, and because Datak did exactly what we thought he would and try to assert dominance, fell into that role. But his performance in doing so was so over the top, Datak, that I didn't expect it. But I'm going to have to go with Rafe on this one, only because he was stuck. He was put in a position that he didn't want to be in. And you could see that the moment he yelled at Yosef about how he wasn't going to back him and that how they were watching his house so damned closely, he wasn't going to help him.
Right.
I think Rafe struggled this whole episode, and in the very end, he did the right thing. He did it cleanly, he did it elegantly, he did it regrettably, and he knew what was coming after that happened. That was the first moment that he's had this season where he was in control. He had his bags packed, he was enjoying the moment, and he had his last glass of scotch there.
Yeah.
So I have to give it to Rafe for this episode. What about you, Barry?
I was really going to say Stahma. Well, if I could tie them, it'd be Stahma and Rafe. But I would probably agree with you on Rafe only because, yeah, he really did pull it together, keep it, tight, and go. He was not surprised at all with what happened, and he controlled the situation, even though he still got evicted. So I think he did a stellar job, and also that emotion that he displayed when he got angry at Yosef, that was amazing for him.
Well, and you know what? I think his silent emotion was even stronger. When he yelled at Yosef, that was good. When he shot Yosef in the back, that was painful, and you saw it in his tears. But when he sat there and he waited for that eviction notice, he was definitely in pain, but resigned to his fate.
Yep, I'd agree.
So, yeah, I think Rafe wins this episode, honestly. But anyway, we've talked about this episode to the audience's bore.
Off the set.
Let's start off with our favorite tweets. And, I only pulled a couple off, but oh my gosh, there were so many tweets this episode that were so phenomenal. You guys on Twitter are fantastic. I'm going to start off with our very own favorite, Hellbugs in Love. She starts off with what Pottinger says in the episode. I'm a high-ranking official of the Earth Republic. And she responds with Vader. You are part of the Rebel Alliance and a traitor. Which made me laugh so freaking loud. It was so perfect because Yosef was wearing that mask. He could have totally been a Darth Vader.
That's so true.
That was just awesome.
Fandoms collide. That's so awesome.
And she combined my two favorite sci-fis together. I was so happy. So Hellbugs, you have my eternal love. My next favorite was actually from you, Michelle.
Oh!
And that was when Amanda, after being yelled at, she says, well, I'm glad to see they didn't kill you. And you put, I'm glad to see they didn't kill you equals, fuck you.
Yes. I knew exactly what she wanted to say. She just knew she needed that next hit of Adreno.
Wow.
Yeah. And I don't curse on Twitter. I say a lot of inappropriate things, but yeah.
But that was so powerful, and you could hear it in her voice. I loved that tweet. That was perfect. I loved that interpretation. And then finally we got one from Time Lord Devious, who made me laugh so hard because he basically just typed in a whole bunch of Naz, and then at the end he put Nolan, and you knew right away he was singing the Batman theme. Nolan. So yeah, Jesse, thank you. You made my night so enjoyable. Any other tweets? Those were my favorite, at least.
Yeah, I had one tweet that popped up on my radar because we actually talked about this, is from Daniel Fugate, and he says, I do not like the new mayor in Defiance. Understatement of the year. And he goes on, he says, I think the story he told to Amanda was completely made up. He's manipulating her. And so it just made me think, oh, we're not alone here. There are other people that think this too.
Well, that was my initial thought.
Yeah, and it's just,
Yeah.
so it's like, okay, at least we're all on the same page. This is why we're all in this community. The other one is actually someone who's in the chat room, Carly. She said, and I would have gotten away with it too if it weren't for my terrible planning and all this technology, said the dumb kid. And it's just so perfect. It's a perfect description of poor Yosef in that episode of, he was just way in over his head. And then a couple of more, I'll run through them really quickly, but Damon Ripper says, Defiance episodes should no longer be rated using the X out of 10 method, but rather by the amount of times WTF is uttered aloud, which is so true.
And how many times was that this episode?
At least.
How many times did you utter
What the?
WTF?
At least 7.
Wow.
Yeah, there was a lot of that going on in this one.
Yeah, for sure.
Vision is actually one of our guildmates in the game. So thanks, Vision.
Yeah.
We really appreciate your tweets. You put one from Seliyuki.
Yeah, because she makes such a good point. After Rafe shoots, Joseph, he throws the gun away, and she's like, Rafe throws the gun. Do they no longer have fingerprints on New Earth? And it was like, well, it's like, okay, Rafe, you could actually pretend to care that you might get caught. But
he knew. He knew he was going to get caught. And you know what? He still threw that gun. Wow. In true Kevin Murphy fashion, who is giving us these little hints and tips every episode, went ahead and tweeted 2 things that you pulled up for us. Why don't you go ahead and read them?
Kevin Murphy says, know who I miss? Gail Harold. I wish he were in next week's episode. Oops, was that out loud? So I think we're going to get some Connor Lang flashbacks in the next episode. And then he says...
Or are they?
Well, that's...
But
I mean, he clearly had his... Oh, well, this is like a whole new level. But he clearly had his brains blown out, in one of the episodes. But who's to say? Maybe that... maybe it was a clone. Who knows? At this point, I don't put anything past Defiance.
Right?
Right. Like, WTF.
And then the other one he did?
He says, wait for episode 5. That's one of our 2 major weirdo episodes that freaked out the studio and the network. And it's like, okay, if the other episodes that we've already seen haven't been the weirdo freak out moments, then what in the world could you have in store for us?
There's more of that WTF. Wow.
Yeah.
Jeez, that's going to be amazing.
I've been sitting here waiting for episode 6, but if he's telling me episode 5 is just way out there.
Yeah.
Man, this whole season is just phenomenal. It's completely different from season 1. And now I'm starting to understand that whole flipping the table thing, because when episode 1 appeared of season 2, did you really feel like everything was flipped, or did you feel like the pieces were being picked up and put back on the board the way they were?
Put back on the way they were the first episode.
And now?
Crazy.
Yeah. Now they're flipped.
What's her name from Housewives, Judice, whatever her name is. I don't know. Yeah, that was a total table flip right there.
That's a perfect reference. That's so true. And can you believe that I sometimes stop and think, like, last season, we were worried about this dumb election, like this stupid mayoral election. I'm like, who were we to actually care about that last season?
And how much does it matter now?
Right, none.
I'm really loving this season.
Carly has another Kevin Murphy.
Oh my God, I hope Amanda wins. And now it's like, what?
Right, it's like, I can't believe we, oh my gosh, it's just total reset. But Carly says that Kevin Murphy also tweeted about possibly seeing Kenya again, too.
That has to be flashbacks. That has to be. Because if there's one person they refuse to bring back from the dead, it's Kenya. And that is so sad, because we all love Kenya. But I really think that they're going to refuse to bring her back, just because we see all these people coming back from the dead, and we all hope that Kenya's going to be the next one, and she's not going to be.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So let's move on to reviews across the web. I pulled up 3 of them, and some choice quotes from each.
They have to leave somebody in the ground.
Oh, my gosh, yes. TV.com's Noel Kirkpatrick was one, and his review this week, there was 2 things that I pulled up from that. One of them is, it's likely that Pottinger, being the ambitious upstart he is, would have been just as single-minded had he not been peed on. But when you add insult to injury, the desire for retribution is unsurprising. So that goes back to what I was saying. He plans absolutely everything, but some of this investigation was definitely emotionally driven. And if you are peed on, you're going to be peed off.
Yeah.
And the other thing that he mentioned was Datak did what any man in a highly patriarchal society like that of the Cassithans would do to reassert himself as a patriarch. He turned to the old ways to bolster his position, completely ignoring, of course, that those old ways were also responsible for his lowercase back on the home world. Oh, thank goodness for Earth allowing for some wiggle room.
Yeah.
I thought that was very on the nose.
Yeah.
It definitely describes what Datak is going through right now.
Agreed.
And then we've got another review from Den of Geeks, Michael Eyre. Frequently go to Den of Geek. They've got some really great reviews here, but Michael says, wow, where were these writers last year? The last couple of episodes of Defiance have masterfully woven simple crimes, easily solved with deep explorations of character motivations and faction maneuvers. First it was Skevur's car bomb, then Birdie's disappearance, and now the stolen EREP supplies. These investigations serve merely as a backdrop for the political waves tearing through Defiance's season. Game of Thrones would be proud. That pretty much sums up the season completely, doesn't it?
We're pulling an HBO this season on Twitter.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite tweets that I saw.
What was the tweet?
That they're just going for the gamut.
Yeah.
Which is phenomenal. I mean, especially for a basic cable. And the other thing that they said was the thought of Alak and Christie becoming an insipid interspecies couple parroting Romeo and Juliet themes is deplorable.
Agreed.
Yeah.
But what if he were to come to power with his father-in-law, Rafe, the Capulets to Datak's Montague, perhaps leading the impending minor revolution? Now that would be a transformation I could get behind.
He has a good point. That would be more entertaining than kind of deciding, oh, is Alak going to side with Stahma or Datak? It'd be really entertaining to see that pan out.
Stop and think about that, though. Alak leading the minor revolution.
Yeah.
It works, but it doesn't work. But it works. It's just so hard to work with. I love that line, and it wasn't something I would never have thought of that myself.
Yeah.
Never. But now I want to see that. Because Alak has enough clout, I think, to lead the youngsters, at least, into a revolution. I mean, he's young enough, he's prolific enough, he's got the power. He can do it.
That would be so... I would wish that upon him. That would be fantastic for Alak as a character.
I have to give it to Michael R. for that. That actually blew my mind. And then we have Examiner.com's Allison Nichols. Well, at least the quote that I pulled from that was, personally, I don't come away from this episode liking Niles any better, but I enjoyed hearing Amanda's tale. We rarely see her that vulnerable. She is the best thing to come out of Niles being around.
I agree. It's interesting that her being that vulnerable, well, it was her story that clearly makes us uncomfortable because, that's a horrible thing to have to go through. But then what made me more uncomfortable was the fact that she chose to share it with Pottinger. And I get that she was trying to make, they have that in common, but still, she's never told anyone, and she tells him.
Do you think that she would ever have told that to Nolan?
No. Nolan wouldn't even know what to do with that. Yeah.
Exactly. So, because Niles is around, we get to hear this backstory about Amanda. If Niles was not around, we would never have known. We would have known something had happened, but we wouldn't have known the finer details. So yeah, him being the creeper stalker that he is actually brings us more information about Amanda and lends us that. So I thought this was the best line I could pull from this article, and there was no need for any others. That was it.
Yeah.
So thanks, Allison Nichols, for that. That was actually very well done. And then coming up next week on Defiance, the next episode is Put the Damage On. We have links in the show notes for the sneak peek for episode 5, as well as the episode 5 trailer. I would recommend watching the sneak peek first and then the trailer. They both are on YouTube. So for those of you that are region locked, I've got the YouTube links on the show notes. And just quick observations from those. Did you both get to watch these?
Yes.
No, but I will.
Okay. Basically, watching the trailer and the sneak peek, we've got a few questions that popped up. Michelle, did you have anything that you wanted to bring up before I go through these?
So we all see Amanda, Tommy, and Arissa are kind of, it looks like they're all at Rafe's place. It's, what used to be Rafe's place. That's what it looks like. And I just wonder, are they all there for game night? Like, why are they, of all the people that could be together in that room, it just seems kind of like an odd pairing. So I'm curious as to what they're there. I can only think that they're, secluding Amanda there because she's, going absolutely crazy. Or they think maybe she does have a stalker and needs protecting. So that it was interesting to see that.
So does that mean that Pottinger moves into Rafe's house, or Rafe's house is an E-Rep holdout, or what? But you're right. The fact that they're there in that setting is kind of very interesting.
Well, no, you guys have some observations about that scene too, and kind of what's going on with Amanda.
And I have some questions. Is Amanda being drugged, or is she overdosing on Adreno? Is she seeing the past or reliving a similar event? Because it could be a combination of both, and I don't put it past Pottinger to be wearing a ski mask and having a flashlight in Amanda's face just to recreate the story that she told him. And I bet the only story, or the only person she's ever told that to. Is it coincidence that it comes up after that confession to Pottinger, or is it Pottinger manipulating the situation?
Yeah, is this his therapeutic way of helping her recover from that trauma?
What is his deal?
You actually bring up something cool, because what if she... I'm just
helping you.
Right, I'm helping you get over it. Yeah, that's so weird. But what if, at this point we assume Amanda knows what an adrenal high feels like, so if she was being drugged with something else in Pottinger's office, you would think she would know the difference?
Well, there's a difference between having a high and being overdosed on the same drug. If she got a double dose from somewhere and didn't realize it.
Yeah. Oh, poor Amanda.
Or if she's just high and he's coming around with a ski mask and a flashlight. What's going on?
Yeah, talk about a bad Halloween. It's just like...
And again, what is Pottinger's deal? He is stalking this woman like crazy, watching her on the feeds get high, get laid, and generally just get dressed.
Yeah, and in all of that, he's not actually out to really get Nolan, because in this episode he said, I'm not going to send you to Camp Reverie because that would break Amanda's heart. And it's just interesting the way he chooses to compartmentalize these things.
And that's weird too, because with Pottinger, I totally expect him to want to break Amanda's heart and sit there and just lick her tears. That's how creepy he is to me.
Yeah, like literally, you're right.
Yeah.
And then other questions brought up are Amanda, Tommy, and Arissa...
Seems like something he'd love.
Right? It's just creepy as shit. Are Amanda, Tommy, and Arissa all at Rafe's old place, now occupied by the E-Reps or Pottinger? What exactly are they all doing there in the first place?
Hellbugs had a really good comment. She said they're all just trying to detox Amanda. It's like some sort of intervention. Which that could actually be true. Yeah.
Oh, it's like Evil Dead without the dead.
Just evil?
Just evil,
Thing that made me question this was, Rafe is now in the house, Tarr, but it doesn't look like he's just a guest. What roles do you think he's going to be playing in the Tarr household?
Handmaiden.
No. Maybe.
He gets to comb Stahma's hair,
Oh man, would that be an image? Rafe
Braids
combing
Alex's
Stahma's
hair.
hair.
That...
Somebody needs to draw that. That's just awesome.
Yeah, where's Dickens when you need her? Like, draw that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then what could Datak possibly offer Rafe to get them to partner up
that'd be awesome.
and save the town? Is that in of itself reason enough for Rafe? Or what does Datak get out of it? How does this partnership work?
I think Datak's just grasping at straws.
No, there's got to be a reason why he's... the draw for Rafe...
Well, and Rafe doesn't trust him at all.
Right, but the draw in for Rafe is saving the town. But what does Datak get out of that? He knows what words to tell Rafe, but what is Datak's endgame? Does Rafe really have the emotional capacity to go ahead and save the town now?
Well, because Datak doesn't really... He cares about getting rid of Stahma at this point.
So, exactly. He just wants to take his boys back. And his business, it's just... I don't know what this partnership deal will have, what benefit it'll have for Datak at all. But we'll have to see. Let's go ahead and move on to news from the Bay Area. This is where we get to talk about the game.
News from the Bay Area.
Barry, this is why I invited you onto the show. The first thing that I want to talk about is the War Master event changes in Defiance 2.1. Now, there is a lot of stocko going on about this. Not necessarily the changes, but the post itself. And you know what? I have two big fat words to say to you, Trick Dempsey, and those of you at Trial World, and one of them is you. Thank you. Thank you so much for these changes.
Yes. so much. I have been itching for these changes.
Honestly, the biggest thing about this is not the changes themselves. It's what the post said and how gamers took it and ran with it, and they manipulated the words, and they manipulated what was said and what was done, and they felt like it was a slap in the face from Tryon, and I have to wholeheartedly disagree. I read this post. I had somebody who doesn't play the game very often, who's just done a few of these, read the post and tell me if any of this was offensive. Barry, did you think any of this was offensive?
No, I didn't. Honestly, it says the truth about what I've seen when I've ever done the War Masters, because you go in, you beat the Vulture that are inside, you open up the base, and you go down below, and the War Master's there, and somebody starts shooting at the locks, and you have people screaming obscenities at this person. Nasty, 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 horrible things about the person. Just really, even, and granted, gamers, especially MMO gamers, can be pretty nasty, which is why I play alone, but...
They can be pretty passionate people, yeah.
Yeah, they're passionate, which is great, but at the same time, it's just a lot of really uncalled for insults, screaming at them, calling them, all kinds of things, all because the person is doing what the ego is telling them to, which is break the locks.
So let me go ahead and read some of this letter off to you. It starts off with, Arc Hunters were releasing an update to the War Master instance to address social dynamics inside the event. Feedback from players fell into two broad categories, those that break locks and those that do not. So right away, he's already lumped us into two different categories. But that's the truth.
Mm.
And then I'm going to start mentioning sections and why, or my reasonings behind why I think that this was truth and this was called for and necessary. Lock breakers break the War Master locks at the first opportunity. They value their playtime, entertainment, and the moment-to-moment rewards that come from constant action. They are playing Defiance for a limited time each day, and they are guided by which events are active in the game. Every part of the user interface supports this play method. Indicators and ego instructions push these players forward, and they reap great rewards during their time. Lock breakers constitute a vast majority of players. This is true.
Exactly.
I was one of them. I've been to plenty of these arc breaks, and I've been in instances where people jump in and go straight for the locks. I've also been in rooms where people just stand back and wait until there's the maximum number of people that can be in that room before somebody says, okay, let's break the locks. And granted, there's no established leaders. This is not a giant group. Somebody just says, okay, let's break the locks. I followed the flow of the instance and what my ego said to do, and I was immediately name-called and berated and hated upon the first time I played this instance. I jumped down, the ego told me to start shooting at the locks. I broke one lock, there's 4, and I was subject to this nastiness. The entire instance. And I'm not the only one. Barry, have you had this kind of dribble done to you?
No, because I don't like to deal with the bullshit. Can I say bullshit? Bullstock. There we go.
Yes, this is a mature podcast.
I don't like dealing, like I said earlier, I play alone precisely because of the disgusting attitudes that a lot of MMO gamers have. They don't like when you don't do things what they think you should be doing. So I've dropped in, stopped, looked around, saw the local chat, saw them screaming at somebody who was shooting at the logs, and thought, I'm not going to touch it. I'm not going to get, screamed at by these people. So I'd leave it alone. But you're standing there for 30 minutes sometimes, waiting for enough people to get in because somebody decided they want to drop, a major arc fault right away, and they didn't have enough people. I personally have not experienced it, but I've seen it plenty of times, more times than I can count.
Well, let me show you something real quick. If you guys are looking at the stream, I posted up a screenshot that I took just before this live stream. Okay, I logged in, and somebody actually called that there was a major arcfall impact coming, and they said it was south of the overpass. So I looked at my map, and sure enough, there was one there. This is how you organize an event. You shout in local chat, people come and organize, and then they get ready to jump into this instance. Not waiting 30 minutes for everybody to populate this instance and then go for the boss.
Yep.
Whether or not you did this, chances are you're not going to beat the boss in the first place.
Right.
It's just a waste of people's time, and it frays on everybody's nerves. This is just pointless. So these changes are actually very beneficial because they put the onus, the person that is going to call down the major arcfall, to go ahead and organize a party beforehand.
Right.
Every MMO I played, before I go into a raid, we're organized and we're ready to go. We've got our buffs going, we've got everything going, and then we're ready to do it. And we go through the whole dungeon before we get to the boss and do the boss. You don't do the dungeon and wait at the door for the boss and then jump into the boss.
Right.
It just doesn't make sense to me.
The thing with the War Masters is that it's not an instance that just appears. It does not. You have to call it down. You have to have 4 arc batteries that you place down, you set them up, and they go, and then the arc comes down. There's nothing about this event that makes it spawn on its own. It's entirely player spawned, which is what this rage about it is, why it's ridiculous to me.
Oh my god, and there was so much vitriol from them forums. It was terrible. I watched the live stream on Friday, and I was watching players who decided to take it upon themselves to mention how horrible these changes were and how they demanded an apology from Trick, and getting even more frustrated when their comics were deleted because they were either all in caps or very offensive, and it just further enraged them all. I could not finish watching the whole live stream because the chat was just terrible.
They have their stream when I'm at work, so I really don't get a chance to, watch it. After hearing what happened, I was like, I don't think I can watch that stream and see what the reactions of everybody on the other side during that part,
It was terrible. I mean, you know how offended these vets got? I am actually pretty ashamed to call myself a veteran player because the vocal minority of these veterans are shaming and bad-mouthing the game or saying they quit and all of this. They're pretty much throwing a huge tantrum and pouting, and I am ashamed to call myself a veteran of this game. I've been playing since beta, and that's something you'll commonly hear from people who are full of piss and vinegar and want to shout at the forums. I am a beta player. I've stuck to this game. I've put lots of money into this game. I've paid for bits and given them out on this show. And to hear what these vets are saying, and they're speaking like they're speaking for all vets, hurts me.
Mm-hmm.
It's shameful. The things that Trick does and this company does for this game have made it constantly better. They're improving this game. And they get to a change that happens that the players don't like, and they're subject to this kind of crap.
Yeah.
So I know I'm putting a lot of weight on this, and
I've been playing since alpha, even before the beta. I magically got an invite somehow. I think I said something on Twitter about it, and they just sent me one. I don't know. So I've seen changes from the very early, right when they were ready to show the public, the game, all the way up till today. I mean, it has improved astronomically. I mean, if you play during the alpha, which was actually even different than the beta, you wouldn't recognize the game. And, seeing all these people say, well, I'm a vet, my hard-earned money, blah, blah, blah. It's like, I don't work a job that gives me a lot of money, but honestly, if I'm playing the amount of time that it takes me to make up the amount of money that I would have made, at my job to pay for the amount that I've dropped, it's worth it to me. But, they to use I put all this money, you guys owe us, we've done all this for you, and you guys spit in our face for something that honestly makes the game better and actually directs you on how to play it as you should play it. To me, that's just, that's offensive to me. It's really disgusting to hear that kind of talk.
There's a difference between MMOs that are sub-based, that are buy once, play forever, and that are free to play.
Right.
Okay, if this was a sub-based game, I can understand the ire because you're paying for it monthly.
Right.
We buy it once, and most people, the entrance bar was $5. That is not much, and you play it free forever, and now it's free to play. They are not under contract the moment that you buy this game to make you happy. It's kind of like, and this was something recently with authors, with Neil Gaiman and George R.R. Martin. Somebody asked him, George R.R., if he was going to be alive by the time he finished his next book, in which case he gave them a big fat middle finger and said, fuck you. When you buy a book, you're buying that book. You're not buying into the series and waiting for that author to spend his time to write that book instead of spending time to live his life. And that's the same thing with this game. Mm-hmm. If you're happy with the game, put money into it. If you're not happy with the game, walk away.
Right.
We don't need your anger, your hate. We don't need you driving people who have never played this game away because it sounds vicious. Just some things that were mentioned on the forums. I have to point these out because I was just so disappointed with our fan base. One person said, bad idea insulting some of your longest and most loyal players. Way to yet again slap all season pass holders in the face. You're beginning to get good at it. And I'll leave the griefers and noobs to their failures when this patch goes live. Only going in there with an infector if I waste my time at all. Congrats, Trick. You finally pissed me off enough to hate my investment. To that person I say, I am one of those longest and loyal players you speak of. Griefers and noobs are in the eye of the beholder. In my eyes, those that verbally abuse other players for playing the game in a different manner than you is a griefer.
Exactly.
Another one. Don't worry about it, people. Nothing has really changed. The one or two idiots that break locks early will still get a bad rep in game, and our great community can continue to not let them in the top clans and refuse to sell them any decent items until they learn the hard way. Just troll them back. That way, the way we best do.
What does that even mean?
Congratulations on punishing and alienating all those new players to Defiance. Exactly, right? They basically just alienated anybody who wants to jump into the game. Those players that pump the population up and trigger more events and emergencies, those players that help fill up those raids with 24 plus players, good luck when you've drove them all away. Gone like those other vets who left due to their changes. I mean, seriously.
They're shooting themselves in the foot by screaming at new people who, and people who are doing what they're told, and saying, well, we'll drive them off if we don't need them. No, you do them. You need the new players. You need the people to fill up the instance so that you can beat the War Master. You need them in your clans to drive them out because you have a nasty attitude. No, that's ridiculous.
These people are complaining that they cannot win the War Master already, and that they've got these restrictions on them that honestly make no difference to the way they play the game or the instance, and it's hurting them from actually winning the War Master. Well, they're driving other people away. New players are hearing this drivel, and they're being driven away. Michelle, if you heard any of this, would you have wanted to play?
No, I'd be scared to death. Seriously.
You dropped into an instance the first time, and somebody's yelling at you because you did what the game told you to do. Would you have wanted to continue to play?
No. And that's why this seems so completely unproductive.
I have to give it to Trick and his team at Tryon, everybody at Tryon Worlds. Thank you for these changes. They are wonderful. I applaud the changes. I am happy for this. I hate the negativity. And this is a good step forward to getting rid of it. And, I get a lot of people on Twitter that tell me that I'm wrong. When I was on that live stream and I was chatting with people, I was already being yelled at. It's insane.
This seems completely, unproductive and kind of not the point of the fun that you're supposed to be having in a game. So explain to me where this underlying passion comes from. Is it because they're used to different styles in other games? What's the problem?
Vets or people who have been around since alpha and who stick with the game, whether or not it's being profitable or failing, they stick around because they're in it to win it. And their attitudes reflect that. There's only one right way, and that's the way that wins.
Okay.
And unfortunately, the comment that I had made is there's no wrong way to play this instance. There's multiple ways to play this instance. The only wrong way to play it is if you're turned around and facing the wall and shooting at the wall. I mean, that's it.
Yeah.
Right.
And immediately I was drowned out by comments, and it's all about winning it.
Okay.
And honestly, if you're shooting at the Lore Master with a whole bunch of lock breakers or lock keepers, you're still shooting at the same goal, the War Master. The only difference is you're gathering your party out before than you are when you're in the instance. And yes, there's some stability issues with keeping your group together, but that's usually lag. That's lag. If you have a lag problem, it boots you out. But if you're grouped up, you can usually join the group back. It's like phase changing. It's not a problem. So I don't know where all this hate comes from, and it's been driving me mad all weekend. What about you, Barry? How ashamed do you feel about our vets?
I honestly would not want to be associated with these people that I saw. I read the forum, and I couldn't read the whole thing because, it was just this constant row about how we're being slapped in the face and how Tryon hates us and how they don't want our business and all this stuff. And it's like, there's nothing keeping you there. Nothing said that you had to play the game. Nothing said that you had to put all that money into it. If you don't like it, then you can go because quite honestly, they are the vocal minority. The ones who rant and rage on the forums are the vocal minority. Fact.
How many of those vets do you think were so offended by just that one portion? They're the vocal minority.
Very few vets, like actual vets, not just the ones who speak for everyone. Very few, I would say, are actually offended. And honestly, they think, well, nobody else talks, so clearly we're the majority. No, they don't talk because you guys shoot them down, you scream at them, you yell at them, you call them names. I've seen, casual homophobia, casual sexism, racism, calling people all sorts of things. Most people do not want to go on the forums. So they have this kind of nearsighted idea that they speak.
Right now, I can just see people who are listening to this right now thinking, oh, but that's normal in any MMO.
It should not be.
It's just terrible.
I have a whole rant about this, and I say this to my friends who don't really play, and they're like, well, how's that different? I'm like, It shouldn't be. There's no reason why that should be accepted in a game community. I've seen it in other games, but it's
Not
yeah,
in the least.
and this level though is astounding to me. I haven't seen it in Rift, honestly, when they've made their changes. I haven't seen it in ESO. I just haven't. This astounded me, to be honest. And it's offensive to me for these other people to lump me in with them. No.
Well, let's go ahead and wrap this up. Patch 2.1, though, was announced, and it brought the changes to this War Master, but it also brought in some good news. And that is, starting Monday at noon, our countries will start the new story missions.
Yes.
So this is some good news. Silver lining to the cloud. Karl von Bach has been heard across the radio waves coming out of San Fran, and it's presumed that he is alive. Also, rumor has it, von Bach is giving out ego implants for anyone who asks for them.
Ooh.
Which is very different from the Karl von Bach we know. The post, the link is in the show notes for the post, but it's basically at Defiance.com. One of the quotes is, "The investigation of these strange events will provide a new window into the history of the ego, the capabilities of the grid, and even a new social movement appearing in the world." Barry, have you noticed the grid? Have you noticed what they can do?
Yes, and I love it. I haven't been in for a while.
Not only can they turn NPCs,
I've only seen the Revenants so far. I haven't been into the game for a few days, only because I've been in Arcage. Yeah, I've seen the Revenants. That's as far as I've seen. So if there's anything new, I haven't seen it yet.
when I play the Revenants, and I've done this a few times already, they are tough little buggers because they turn any NPC that's around into one of them. Once you kill that NPC, that Revenant is standing there. And not only that, you'll see them change colors into red. You'll see them disappear. You'll see them start to move faster. What do these sound like to you?
Ego.
It's the ego powers. Exactly. They are mimicking all the powers of the ego, all four of them, and they're regenerating health. So they are tough little critters. They are equally as powerful as we are. Gosh, I'm very curious to see what's going on with the grid. Where did they come from? What's going on with them? And if Von Bach's giving out ego implants, does this have anything to do with it? So we're going to find out all of this on Monday. Not only that, but there's some new faction. The new factions are the Tarr family and the Defiance few. So I guess we really impressed Favi Tarr the last time she was in town, now that we're going to get work with her. And, you know, with new factions means new contracts, new vendors, and this particular patch is going to bring us a new vehicle. Now, I don't know if that's going to be one of those ego codes that happens with next week's episode or something that's just going to be in place, but it's basically the Dodge Durango. If you go to defiancedata.com, I'll have a link in the show notes for some of the new models that have been found in the patch content as well. Let me show you some of them real quick. This is the Dodge armor that a player gets to wear, and you can see the two red stripes on the armor. I didn't know we were going to have vehicle-themed armor, but it's actually pretty snazzy.
Yeah.
And then we've got some things like the Pilgrim player armor. I don't know what these Pilgrims are, but they look kind of bat-like and weird.
Maybe they're part of Von Bach's crew?
The Von Bach's pilgrimage?
Yeah, maybe he's like their messiah, you know.
VBI guards. Here's the Dodge Durango. There's two skins. One is just basically the one that looks like it was in episode 1, the robotic Indogene, and then the other one's got flames to make it go faster. The new cold fire weapons that we've talked about with the Defiance few. And here's something that I thought was interesting. If you can see the Tryon logo and that N coming off, it's very interesting to see that Tryon is putting their name within the game. I thought it was kind of cute. And then there was also mention of the Gulani. So I think that they're fixing up his model again. They're bringing him back into the game for yet another mission. That's probably going to be tied into episode 6, so I can't actually wait for that. I'm really excited for the Gulani. I really, really am.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it for the across the Bay Area. So, Michelle, do you want to do some coupon codes with me?
Yes, I've got 2 coupon codes for you, and I bet you know what they are. So the first is Doghouse Systems. You can use the coupon code MMOReporter at doghousesystems.com, and you can double your RAM. So definitely check that out. And you can also go to Audible, and the actual web address is audibletrial.com/MMOReporter, and you can get your first month free. So definitely check both of those out. They're really good deals.
You know, I cannot wait until we get some more Defiance-related content, like books, and I hope that Audible actually starts carrying those. But, you know, we need the community, we need famous authors to go ahead and take this license and run with it. Please, we need more content. Every episode, we at Defiance Reporter feel that it is the community that makes the transmedia experience great. So I'm constantly on the lookout for new content. You know, you fans out there, you gamers who go above and beyond and create this experience for us, for the Defiance community. This particular week, I want to shine our spotlight on Death to Dickens. You can find her on Twitter at Death to Dickens. That's Death to Dickens. This is Alana. She does quite fabulous work. I want to show you some here on this stream of her drawings. She basically analyzes every single character, draws a little comic strip of the episodes, and gives her interpretations. And they are quite fabulous. Michelle, you pointed these out to me before, too.
Yeah, I love them. Number one, I envy her skills because she's got a ton of them. So, I'm enjoying the drawings. I laugh out loud. And the funniest part to me, my favorite part, is she also draws kind of a self-portrait caricature in the upper, corners of each drawing. And it's kind of like her own take on the scene that she's drawing. And the one for Datak Tarr just made me laugh out loud because I think her self-portrait was just like, shh, I'm not here. Don't let him know I'm here. And it brings such a great perspective. It's really, really worth checking out and framing them, for that matter, and putting them on your wall.
Now, they're wonderful, and she's done a few for Warehouse 13. I assume her first love, but she's really garnered some attention when episode 2 of Defiance aired. She started doing a little comic of what her reactions were. My favorite was "No, my luscious vanilla cupcake" when she was referring to Stahma. I just thought that was hilarious to me. But these things are just wonderful. You have to stop, appreciate them, just read the comments. I think that her commentary is funnier than her comic. Mm-hmm. And I love the comics. I love the childlike caricature and the square, strong jaws of each one of them. But it's what she writes about them that she pins down so great. So if you look at her work, just follow her on Twitter at Death to Dickens. She even said that she does this because she loves to communicate through art. She says, "I have always been a quiet person, and art, especially comedic art, is basically my way of talking your ears off and hopefully putting a smile on your face in the process." Dickens, Alana, we really appreciate your artwork. We love it. It's come as a surprise to us, and we wish you were around for season 1 when it happened. Mm-hmm. So remember, if you want us to feature your clan or your community site or any fan art that you have, on Defiance Reporter, tweet us, leave us a voicemail, or send us an email at defiance@mmorreporter.com, and we'll definitely feature it on the show. Last minute announcements, we've got this week's Arc Hunter code. If you missed it, this week's Arc Hunter code is Raider. Make sure to enter it at defiance.com/ego to get this week's reward of the Shotgun Murder Face mask. You can also pick up the Mask of the Baphomet and the Smiling Menace mask in the store for a few bits. So you can have the whole collection of all 3 idiots trying to rob a caravan. Remember to redeem the code by Saturday, July 19th, because that's when it expires. Alrighty? The other announcement is you can join our Defiance Reporters PC clan at Igni Farouk. I do plan on opening that up on 360 pretty soon. There is no registration required. Just look for me, Corso Van Lock, in-game. I promise you that if we do the War Master, we'll be lock breakers. And then finally, Michelle, if anybody wanted to contact this show, how would they go about doing that?
Yes, if you want to actually contact us outside of, the chat room right now, you can always email us at defiance@mmorreporter.com, or you can look around on the website at defiancereporter.com. Or if you ever want to, leave a voicemail for us and tell us your favorite WTF moment in an episode of Defiance, you can contact us at 616-666-6778, or you can just click the funky little widget on the website on the right-hand side of the page. You can check us out on social media. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/Defiance Reporter. We're also on YouTube at youtube.com/user/MMO Reporter Network. And you can find us on Twitter in a multitude of ways. We are at Defiance Podcast on Twitter, or you can find Barry on Twitter. You know him as Fias, so you can find him at Botanophile.
You forgot the...
I won't spell it.
Well, it's the Botanophile.
So I've completely ruined the way
you'll
never
find a guy
find
who
him
doesn't
on
ever
Twitter.
use his Twitter ever.
That's right. You can find Barry on twitter.com/thebotanophile. There we go. And then you can find Michelle at twitter.com/womenofdefiance. And you can find Ben at twitter.com/nebsinsane.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Barry, for sharing your lovely theories about this show with me.
Thank you.
Barry, thanks for the help with the rant and rave about the changes to War Master. I really appreciate having you guys on.
Oh, I could go on, but...
Yeah, the show would be nothing without you all, so thank you for joining me. Chat room, thanks for joining us. We appreciate all the comments, and you make the show better. So thanks for tweeting at us. And those of you who listen at home, who download the show week after week, we really appreciate it. We thank you. We hope that you keep doing so, but most importantly, we hope to see you in game.